Imagine, many kilometers offshore, you surface and cannot see your boat anywhere. You have been forgotten in the middle of a vast ocean teeming with sharks. You call for help, but no one answers, and there is nothing to hold on to. From that moment, your countdown begins. This is what is believed to have happened to Tom and Eileen Lonergan off the coast of Australia in 1998. After one of their dives, the young couple surfaced and realized that their boat had left, abandoning them in the open sea. 2 days later, a search began, but it yielded no results, and Tom and Eileen were gone. In the following weeks, various pieces of their diving gear washed ashore, raising many questions. But the most chilling find was a diver's slate belonging to the couple. What was written on it is truly terrifying. Could they have managed to reach land and vanish forever? Or did they fall victim to the boundless shark-infested depths of the sea? This story, saturated with horror, panic, fear, and despair, will leave no one indifferent. White beaches and crystal-clear waters make the Great Barrier Reef off Australia one of the best holiday destinations in the world. It is also one of the finest places on Earth for scuba diving, but there is a dark side to this paradise. On January 25, 1998, the boat Outer Edge left Port Douglas with 20 passengers on board and headed out to sea. Among the passengers were an American couple, 34-year-old Tom and 28-year-old Eileen Lonergan, who were vacationing in Australia from the United States. Tom and Eileen were experienced divers with more than 150 dives to their names. For $160, a 5-person crew took them on 3 dives at St. Crispin Reef, located along the Great Barrier Reef, about 40 kilometers from shore. On the way to the reef, one of the tourists filmed home video on a camcorder, capturing Tom and Eileen standing at the rail shortly before they disappeared. Along with the other divers, the Lonergans went into the water. During their 3rd dive, they went down and were last seen swimming at a depth of 12 meters. After spending around 40 minutes underwater, they surfaced, but their boat was gone. They were left alone under the blazing sun in the middle of the endless ocean, and from that moment, their countdown began. The day after the couple vanished, another dive group arrived at St. Crispin Reef. Divers noticed weight belts lying on the seabed in the area where the Lonergans had been diving. Weights are used to adjust buoyancy, but the find raised no suspicions because no one yet knew the couple was missing. 2 days after the disappearance, Outer Edge skipper Jeffrey Nairn made a disturbing discovery: 2 pairs of shoes and 2 dive bags left on board. Among the belongings were wallets with passports, credit cards, and IDs belonging to the Lonergans. Worried by this, he called the hostel owner in Cairns, where the couple had been staying, to ask if they had returned. The hostel said they had not. When the skipper heard this, he informed the police, by which time the couple had already been missing for 51 hours. But how could they simply have been forgotten in the middle of the ocean? It was later reported that 2 passengers on the Outer Edge had been accidentally double-counted by the crew. During the head count on the bow, 2 people jumped into the water. When a second count was done on the stern, those same 2 passengers climbed back on board and were counted again. Later, crew member Carol Nowak said that when she returned to the boat, she glanced back and saw bubbles on the surface. She assumed they were from fish, but looking back now, she believes they were the Lonergans' bubbles. Once it was discovered that the couple had been left on the reef, a massive 3-day search was launched. 17 aircraft, helicopters, police boats,
divers and Navy divers took part in the operation. On the fourth day, the search was called off with no success. Detectives believed that if parts of the Lonergan's gear washed ashore, it might offer clues about what had happened. Police said ocean currents could carry debris from the sea onto the northern coastline. Rescuers began searching 40 kilometers north of the site where the couple had last been seen. On the 11th day after they vanished, on a crocodile-infested beach near Indian Head, rescuers found a buoyancy vest belonging to Tom Lonergan. 3 days later, in the same area, they found Eileen's vest. 2 days after that, they recovered a black dive hood. Eileen was known to wear a hood like this, and they also found her right fin in the area. These items were discovered there between February 12th and 16th. Police then found 2 dive tanks. Although there was no conclusive proof that the tanks belonged to the couple, investigators were sure they were the Lonergans. These discoveries gave some hope that Tom and Eileen might have reached land, but the gear was scattered over several kilometers. The way the equipment was found raised questions. Could someone have deliberately thrown it ashore? And is it possible that the Lonergans themselves did this? A strange story from their hometown made detectives pause. 10 years after the Lonergans disappeared, police arrested American Milton Harris for faking his death. He jumped from a ferry on the way to New Zealand and later was found alive there, while his family received $1 million in insurance payouts. Harris came from the same town as Tom and Eileen and attended the same church as they did. This led to speculation that the Lonergans might have staged their disappearance, but police doubted they could have survived the shark-infested ocean and then reached a crocodile-filled shore. However, they might have reached land another way. Not far from where they disappeared are floating docks known as pontoons. Investigators determined that the Lonergans could potentially have swum about 6 kilometers to the nearest pontoon moored at Agincourt Reef. If they had reached a pontoon, they might have returned to shore by blending in with other tourists on a boat. After this theory emerged, police received numerous reports from people claiming to have seen the couple on the mainland, but none of these sightings led to their discovery. Many experts are convinced that swimming 6 kilometers through strong ocean currents to the nearest pontoon would have been almost impossible, especially since Tom and Eileen were not strong swimmers, making the staged disappearance theory unconvincing. Their bank accounts were never used again, and no one ever tried to claim any insurance policies. The truly chilling discovery was made on June 28th, 5 months after the couple vanished. In remote mangroves near Archer Point, 2 fishermen found a diver's slate, the small writing board divers use to communicate underwater. The slate carried a U.S. address and phone number that belonged to the Lonergans. On it, in scrawled, faded handwriting, was a message that the fishermen copied into a notebook. Monday, January 26, 1998, 0800 hours. To anyone who can help us, we have been abandoned on Agincourt Reef by the boat Outer Edge, 25th January 1998, 1500 hours. Please rescue us before we die. Help. The slate was sent to a laboratory for testing because some suspected it might have been planted. Growth of marine algae on the slate showed it had been in the water since around the time they disappeared. Handwriting experts concluded that the grim message had been written by Tom. After this discovery, the entire story became even more saturated with horror and despair. The Lonergans were left on the reef at 5 p.m. on January 25th, while the slate message is dated at 8 a.m. on January 26th, which means they spent at least 17 hours in open water. Police said it was unlikely that anyone could survive more than 4 days in the open ocean. When the search started, Tom and Eileen had already been missing for more than 2 days, though there was still a faint hope. Authorities noted that unlike other divers that day, Tom and Eileen were wearing thick dive suits, which could protect them from the scorching sun and from hypothermia. However, these suits offered no protection from the ocean's most dangerous predators.
Many believe Tom and Eileen were taken by sharks, and imagining that this might have been their fate is deeply unsettling. Yet even this version raises doubts. Almost all of the recovered gear showed little or no damage, which is not what one would expect from a shark attack, except that part of Eileen's wetsuit was torn. Analysis suggested the tears around the hips and armpits were likely caused by coral as the suit drifted toward shore. Another unresolved detail is that Tom's buoyancy vest was found unfastened, which means it had been deliberately removed by hand, raising the question of why they would get rid of gear that kept them afloat. Experts involved in the investigation suggested that drifting helplessly back and forth under the blazing tropical sun, the couple may have become delirious from dehydration and voluntarily abandoned their heavy equipment. Without the buoyancy provided by their wetsuits and vests, they would not have been able to stay afloat for long. The fact that the diver's slate was found ashore might mean Tom and Eileen attached it to some floating object, possibly part of the gear they discarded. When Tom and Eileen surfaced and realized the boat was gone, they likely believed that once the boat reached shore, their absence would be noticed and someone would return for them. They must have believed and hoped that help was on its way and that they were already being searched for, not knowing that the search would not begin for another 50 hours, and that in all that time, no one was thinking of them. Renowned Australian diver Ben Kropp, with 48 years of diving experience, said, "Personally, I think they were taken by a tiger shark within 48 hours. It is possible they abandoned their gear in an attempt to swim to shore, since wetsuits restrict swimming because of drag. Or they may have sent their equipment drifting in the hope that someone would spot it from the air or from a passing vessel. But because the search did not start until 51 hours after they were lost, currents could already have carried the gear far away. They may have fallen prey to sharks. They may have drowned while delirious from dehydration and exhaustion. They may simply have fallen asleep, unable to stay awake any longer while floating in the water. And some still believe that somehow they made it to shore and disappeared forever. Share your theories in the comments about what you think happened to Tom and Eileen when they realized they were alone in the middle of the ocean. And if you want more stories like this, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.